Some lessons do not begin in classrooms or boardrooms. They begin in moments people would rather forget. For Ron, that moment arrived when years of alcohol abuse finally reached a breaking point. A night that included a drunk driving arrest and an assault on a police officer forced a confrontation with something he could no longer avoid. Not just the drinking itself, but the fear and self-doubt that had been hiding behind it. What followed was not a quick turnaround. It was the beginning of recovery, a process that started with asking for help and continued through decades of reflection, discipline, and personal growth. This conversation traces that journey from addiction to sobriety and how those experiences shaped Ron's perspective on leadership, accountability, and emotional intelligence. Ron shares how recovery taught him lessons that later carried into the workplace. The importance of admitting mistakes, the value of asking for help, and the role humility plays in building trust with the people around us. Along the way, we talk about feedback, decision making under pressure, and the difference between confidence and arrogance in leadership. This isn't a conversation about perfection. It's about responsibility, about learning from failure without being defined by it, and about how the willingness to look honestly at ourselves can become the foundation for both personal recovery and effective leadership. Welcome to No One is Normal, the podcast where real stories remind us that none of us are alone. You can also visit the website www.bradhhill.com or www.nooneisnormal.co for resources, updates, and future podcast episodes. I am Brad H. Hill, and each week we talk about the messy, the complicated, and the deeply human moments that shape us and remain in our memories. I am not here to tell anyone how to live. I am here to offer the stories, the insights that made me realize that no one is normal, including me, because healing starts when self-honesty begins. Hey Ron, thank you for coming on to the show today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Brad. Thanks for having me.
What was your rock bottom moment, and how did that change your overall perspective?
There's more than just one rock bottom moment, and I mean it was building and building and building. Uh, I had gotten a DWI on January 20th, 1993, and long story short, I won't get into all the details. The cop, the cop who stopped me asked me, "Have you been drinking?" And I knew there was no way I could get around it. I was like, yes, I have. I've got to take you in. I understand. I'm okay with that. Please don't cuff me. Ron, I have to. It's protocol and everything else. And Brad, I assaulted him. And I am this nice guy. We don't know each other at all. I'm a laid back, nice guy. And I think back now, I did that. I did that. And that was not my bottom. It was close. A week later, I went to see a friend of mine down in kind of like central New Jersey, whatever, about an hour from where I was living with my parents at 33, which was a joy in and of itself. Anyway, long story short, I drank just about all day long. How I ever got home that night, I don't know. Woke up that next Sunday morning and I was searingly hungover. I mean, searingly. And I did not get like that. I really didn't. It was Super Bowl Sunday. I am a huge football fan. I was supposed to go to a party at my friend Pat Ruick's house. My first conscious thought that day, searingly hungover, I'll have a couple. I'll only have a couple. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. My mom and my dad came in to my room as like, you got drunk again last night. And again, I'm kind of fast forwarding through this. My whole point at quarter to 11, and I remember this like it was yesterday. This is over 33 years ago. I'm lying in bed, my mom and dad, you got to go to detox. You're a drunk. You got to go to detox. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm in a lot of trouble. I can still get through this. I can still do it on my own. And for some reason, 5 minutes later, I said to my mom, Mom, it won't help. And she and my dad both looked at me. What do you mean? And I was like, I need help. Quote, and I still remember it, Brad, I will not survive if I don't get help. And that was my rock bottom right there. I ended up at the Carrier Foundation for 26 days that day. Thank you God. I'm not kidding when I say I'm not sure I would have lived through that day. I'm really not. It was so bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. I went through a kind of a similar situation. I didn't assault an officer, but I went up and I had an argument with a girlfriend at the time. Went to a bar that was like 4 blocks away. Um, had a few beers right away, and then just took shots. And then I drove and I pulled out in front of an officer and did a little bit of a squirrely. And next thing you know, I got pulled over. Um, I did a refusal to blow at the station,
Right.
so they ended up uh, telling me that I said, "Oh, I wanted to go get a blood test." They said, "Well, we don't do that." So fast forward into the court, they gave me a refusal. So then I was part of one of the pilot programs back then for ignition interlocks. So I had to blow start my car for a year.
Right. Right.
That in itself was a pretty traumatizing thing when you're driving down the road and you gotta blow into a car and people are staring at you. You're sitting at a
Yeah.
stoplight, and so I mean it was a long process. But then after where I started having an issue is after the um, that was done, right? So I spent a lot more time drinking at home because I didn't want to go through that again.
Right.
Rather than addressing the problem, my workaround was stay home and drink, and
Right.
that created
Exactly.
this trap, right? So I just okay, I don't drink with anybody. I just drink alone, like the song.
What's the issue here?
Yeah, and it's crazy when you think about it. You look back at it as I adapted my behavior around alcohol because I didn't want to face consequences if I did something outside of what the realm was.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. And that's for me. I've been sober for, over 33 years, and I still need to remember I did that crazy stuff. I did that. It's not, it's a funny story, Ron. Oh, wow, that's really nuts. It's like, no, Ron, you did that. You drank and drove almost every day. You were cheating and lying and all this. I did that. That's real. And I am so grateful I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that definitely. I look back and I'm like, man, I was stupid back then. And you think you're kind of invincible, you'll never get caught, but sooner or later you're gonna slip up, or somebody's gonna be at the right place at the right time to get you.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
So you kind of talk about like self-reflection being critical to your recovery. Um, what did you have to see about yourself that you were trying to avoid?
The biggest thing for me, I discovered that I was full of fear and that I didn't have low self-esteem. I had no self-esteem. And I think that's so much of what it was is and that just not being good enough, not measuring up and just everything that goes along with that. I mean, I think one of the things that I don't think about it much anymore now, and I'm grateful for that too. When when I was in high school, okay, I was a pretty good athlete, not a superstar and not part of what we used to call back then the jocks, because I wasn't that good. Also, I was a good student, not great, so I wasn't part of the elite, if you will, from that side. And I never knew where I fit. I just never knew. And when I got to college, all of a sudden I realized very, very quickly, man, everybody here. was captain of the basketball team. Everybody here graduated with honors or, whatever it might be. And again, I was just like, I'm a nobody. I'm just a nobody here. And that's what I believed. And I convinced myself of that. And alcohol helped to take that away temporarily.
Yeah, I'm very similar in that aspect. I grew up very, very low self-esteem. Didn't really know what my path was in life, my purpose, spending that time just kind of hiding myself in alcohol because I didn't feel like I was worth enough to anybody, kind of like where you kind of had that same feeling. And I was about in my mid 20s when I started college, and I had a little bit of I matured a little bit, but then I still, once I got through that school process, you could see the people that were kind of the elite of the elite, and you're like, well, I am just another guy. But then as I got through school and as I got through career, I kind of developed into where I'm at now, which is great, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to get out of that. What's my value,
And I think one of the nicest things for me too, and to me, it's a big part of recovery is realizing, wait a minute, I'm not alone. There are other people who feel like this. There are other people who have had similar experiences. And starting to understand that was so enlightening to me and just so helpful to me. And I was like, okay, maybe I do belong here. Maybe I can contribute something to society at some point.
It took me like until I went into like a few honors classes. I didn't think I was very intelligent. I didn't think I could do a lot of things. And then I started going into some of those like higher up trig calculus, and then I actually kind of figured like, okay, I'm not just a typical like guy. I can actually understand a lot of things if I have enough kind of guidance. Like almost everybody just looking for that
Hmm.
that
Sure,
guidance to be able to
sure.
feel that confidence and be able to move forward.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it was interesting too because I when 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 I got married, my wife's aunt introduced us, and I met Mary through AA. And I always liked her. I respected her. She had a good program, just everything. And she was always after me. I have this niece. I have this niece. If you would be interested, I was like, no, Mary, no, thank you, no, thank you. And again, very long story short, we did end up getting together. We've been married now happily for over 25 years. My point though is, sadly, about 2.5 years after we got married, Mary developed lung cancer and died very, very quickly. We became friendly, quite friendly, with her estate attorney, Alan, because Lori was the executor of her estate, and I helped a lot. Blah 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 blah. My point, though, I'll never forget. We were talking to Alan one day, and I don't know how this came up, Brad. We were talking about people in general, and Alan paid Lori and I the nicest compliment, just saying, guys, there are not many people out there who are as intelligent as the two of you. And I was, and again, I was sober for 7 years, and I was just like, whoa, whoa, thank you, Alan. That's a really nice compliment. And again, it's for me, I don't struggle with my self-esteem anymore. Sometimes though, that'll still rear its ugly head, and I need to realize, Ron, look at what you've accomplished over all these years. You're okay. You are, I think I am semi-normal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people go through that. And like I had just the other day, like a new career, it's going great, and then I just had this weird day where I had so much self-doubt creep in, and I was like, man, I can't do this. I'm not where I want to be, especially right now, and I'm trying to build up a company's new program. So I'm just like, and then I took a little bit of time and thought about it, and then I'm like, wait a second. Okay, reset. What are you doing? What's working? And then why are you feeling like this? And there's really no reason. It was just me getting in my head about it.
That's right. When I joined Toshiba, I was sober about 6 months, 7 months, whatever, very short period of time. And it was the kind of job that I had dreamt of, just absolutely dreamt of. So I'm there for about maybe 4.5, 5 months, whatever it may be. I don't need to get into all the details because it'll take too long. Things were going really well, and I was the golden boy. And I ended up making a really stupid mistake to the point where my boss's boss called me about an hour and a half after it happened and just ripped me to shreds, just ripped me to shreds, rightly so. And I'm having the thought as I'm hanging up with him, see, Ron, you do suck. You're everybody was right. You were right, Ron. You're no good. Went to a meeting that night, shared about it, and everybody there, Ron, it's okay. It's okay. As long as you're not going to pick up a drink, truly, it will be okay. And guess what? It was. I didn't get fired. I corrected the mistake. And, Tony and I got along extremely well beyond that, which is another blessing for that. And again, point being, everybody makes mistakes. I'll speak for myself. I can magnify that into a flipping crisis when it's not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that too, and it could be something very minute, and not saying your situation was, but they could take something very minute and just dwell on it, and it just anchors them and kind of makes them feel like, well, this is gonna suck. And a former owner of a company that I really liked and had a lot of good things in collaboration with him. He's a former John Deere exec. He said the mistake happened. Did it ruin the business?
Right.
Did it destroy the value of the business?
Right.
We will get over it, we will move on, and we will move forward.
Right.
And so everybody's always afraid of making mistakes. Now there's people who will make a decision and it's the worst decision that'll ever happen, but they have a chance to course correct and try to figure things out and make things better.
That's right.
You're doing the best you can to make an overall decision that is for the betterment of yourself and the company, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I don't know anybody that goes to work. I think I'll make some mistakes today. I think I'll try to screw up today. It's like,
Right.
no, except again. And you know what though? A big thing for me too, Brad, is that now when I make a mistake, and I still do, of course, I'm human. One of the things for which I'm grateful is that I know it's a mistake in judgment. It wasn't fueled by alcohol or it wasn't impacted because I was hungover or whatever it was. It's like, okay, I made a mistake and so be it. And again, point being, how can I course correct? How can I move forward with this? And yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm a kind of a I shouldn't say kind of. I'm big on like lessons learned, right? You go through that,
Absolutely.
you figure out the mistake, you actually dissect it, and then you kind of go through, okay, what did I miss potentially, and what can we do to make this a better decision next time?
That's
A
right.
lot of times you do the lessons learned. It sucks, it's kind of painful. You got to relive what happened, but
Hmm.
at the same point, it really puts it in perspective, especially in a team environment too. When you
That's
do a
right.
lessons learned, it kind of other people provide feedback, so it will give you some good direction or directives,
Yep.
and good feedback.
Yeah.
It does suck, and I've sat in that meeting and I'm just like, oh, this is painful, but it's not meant to be painful. I took it that way because I made the mistake,
That's
right?
right. And that, the growth is through the mistakes, the growth is through the pain. And without that, where's the growth?
Yeah, you definitely learn from mistakes, and you learn faster sometimes by mistake, right? If you make a
Oh,
mistake, you're like,
absolutely.
oh, I better fix this and get it
Absolutely.
quick and move forward.
Yep. I'm going to go back for a second, because you say you were talking about lessons learned. like I said, I don't need to get into all the details about the mistake I made. Point is, just very, very quickly, simply, I tried to do I was facilitating a seminar, and I was not nearly as well prepared as I should have been. And I thought what I could do was to concentrate on the areas that I knew well and sort of skate through the other stuff. And it just absolutely bombed. What did I learn from that? This was about 32 years ago. I vowed I will never go into a session again unprepared, ever, because I never want to feel like that again. I never want to get ripped apart like that again. I have not walked in unprepared. I will not do that again because it was such a great lesson learned.
A kind of a quick detour. I had that same executive that I had a lot of respect for. He was very plain Jane on his PowerPoints, and he just wanted bullets. Me, I like to have people kind of focus and look at the pretty pictures on a PowerPoint slide and kind of go through everything. And by the time I gave presentations, it wasn't my presentation anymore.
Yeah.
That's tough. So that was always the most unnerving thing with that is I'd have this awesome presentation, be fully prepped. I'd spend 2 to 3 weeks polishing it for a presentation in front of the company,
Right.
and then by the time I got to it, I'm like, well, this ain't even my presentation anymore.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that was it taught me a lot too about one. Sometimes you got other people's expectations you have to meet, and it might not be what you want to do,
Hmm.
but you still have to be prepared and still have to do the function, right?
That's right. That's right. And learning too that it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the company. It's about the presentation, or it's about the audience for the presentation. And those are some of the things, because for me, I can be so sensitive to these things, kind of like what I'm hearing. And I remember I was working at a pharmaceutical company, and we wanted to completely redo the Future Leaders Program. There were three of us going to work on it: my colleague Dave, myself, and our boss Joe. Joe said to me, Ron, I want you and you alone to just put an outline together for what this might look like moving forward, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. I worked on this for about 4 or 5 days straight, really, really hard, fine tuning it, the timing, what belongs where, and they ripped it to shreds. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Say, this belongs here. We can't do this. We don't have time for this. This belongs in week two, not in week one. And I'm sitting there like King Baby, like, oh, what did you just do to all my work? And I still remember Joe saying to me, Ron, number one, the only reason we're doing this is to make it better. Number two, where would we be without the original outline that you submitted? And that did help, because again, I was truly being King Baby. It's like, this is my work and you don't like it. It's like, no, it's fine. It can be better.
What does personal responsibility actually mean beyond motivational language?
I am, you know what? I'll answer that by saying I am responsible for everything that I say and everything that I do. And I need to be accountable for those things. Yeah, and if I'm, and I think part of this also is we were talking about it earlier, Brad. When I make a mistake, and I've gotten much much better at this now, I will freely admit it, freely. Or it's like, yeah, that's on me. I was wrong. I apologize. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. Whatever it might be. And I mean, it's just those kinds of things. And I find that when I'm doing the right thing or the right things, everything seems to fall into place pretty well. I mean, it really, really does. I mean, I'm not sure if this is totally applicable or not. I was saying to you before that, I live in New Jersey. We are expecting a huge blizzard tomorrow. And I was scheduled to go to Florida to do a class leaving tomorrow morning. My wife was frantic, just frantic. You're leaving. We're going to have this blizzard. I'm going to be all by myself. And I understood. I do. I really understand. I'm like, all right, what's my responsibility here? I've got all these other things. I've got a commitment to work. I want her to be okay, and all these other things. What's the right thing to do? I got a call from the vendor saying, "Hey, Ron, we know the weather is supposed to be really, really bad up in New Jersey. If you want, we can have a local instructor do the course down here in Florida. You don't have to come." And I was like, wow, okay. And again, the personal responsibility was, okay, what's the right thing to do here? I'm not sure. And it was taken out of my hands. And I'm very grateful for that because I was truly torn.
Yeah, you can look at it from two perspectives, right? You can look at it from the I missed the opportunity, but what was the sacrifice that would have happened if something could have happened? Like, say you got in your way, you get in an accident, at least you had a backup, but you also have to make sure that you're doing the best decision for you and your family too at times.
That's right. That's exactly right. I am responsible for what I say, what I do. And like I said, I'll apologize when I'm wrong. The other thing that comes to, for me at least, within personal accountability, asking for help when I need it. And there are plenty of times. And there, I think, I don't know. My experience has been over the years. I'm not sure I want to say a lot of people. Enough people I know are very hesitant to ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. Just not at all. I'm not perfect. I never have been. And when I ask for help, most often I do get some pretty good guidance.
Yeah, and that's uh, when I early in my career as a manager, I really struggled asking for help. And now it's like I got to use that opportunity to one, get feedback. Two, if I need to course correct, it's good to start something earlier and get that conversation. Because there's nothing worse than
Right.
being done with something and somebody says, "Oh,
Exactly.
lighter, it's on
Yeah.
fire, you got to start over." Shit.
Right. That's
So kind of
exactly right.
going back to that, so why do you think so many leaders struggle with an honest self-examination?
My observation has been, my experience has been one word, and that's ego. I think a lot of it is ego tying into as well that so many leaders believe I need to have all the answers. If I don't have the answers, then I'm not a good leader. And that simply is not true. That goes back to, again, the ability to ask good questions, and to just give guidance. I don't have all the answers. My job is a big part of what I do is to try to pull out of people what they already know. And that's by asking good questions and just giving a little bit of guidance here and there.
Yeah, when I kind of liken it to is if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room,
Right.
right? I want the people
Yeah.
around me and working for me or with me, I want them to bring everything to the table. That's
Right.
one of my kind of big changes I've had in leadership and understanding that I shouldn't have fear about somebody replacing me, right? Because that person that I'm bringing in to replace me will be my person that takes my spot as I move up.
Exactly.
A lot of people take that as fear, and their ego says, no, I don't want this person to come in because they can take my job. Well,
Right.
you got to be able to train your replacement. Most places are not going to move you up without having somebody that's going to take your position. And if you don't set that person up in the business to take your role so you can move up to take somebody else's spot, they're not going to look at you.
Yeah. That's right. That's been my direct experience. Very early on in my career, an old boss of mine said that exact thing to me. Uh, they just said, Ron, he said, be very clear about something. You are never, ever, ever going to push me out of this organization, ever. The only thing you're going to do is push me up. And I was like, I like that, Mark. That's good.
What is emotional intelligence really without the buzzwords?
For me, Brad, emotional intelligence is getting to know yourself on an incredibly, incredibly deep level. Because the better you know yourself, the more effective you're going to be in every area of life. And I believe that with every fiber I have. When I present emotional intelligence in the courses that I facilitate, what I like to talk about with people, or talk about, point out to people, whatever, you need to be aware of and be able to answer: who are you? What are you? What are your guiding values? Okay, that's fine. Additionally, and you need to be able to articulate that. It's not just, oh, I have it written down somewhere. No, 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 no. You need to be able to share that with people. People need to be aware of and talk about openly what their strengths are. What do you do well? And I can do that. I can do that. And I hope it comes across as proud and confident, not arrogant. Quickly, a couple of my strengths: I'm a good facilitator. I know what I'm doing when I'm doing a class or when I'm coaching somebody. I mean, I've got all kinds of experience. I ask good questions and I generate good discussion. Additionally, I'm a good resource to people because over the years I've read over 400 leadership books, and that has helped me enormously to help people with book recommendations or models or whatever. And again, point being, you've got to know what your strengths are because that's the reason the company pays you. On the other side of that, people also need to know what their limitations are. And again, talk about those openly and freely. And I mean, I'll share very freely what some of my limitations are, and it's not limited to these. I'm not strong technically. I never have been, I never will be. Anytime I'm coming onto a podcast or going on a Zoom meeting, I am so grateful when the screen appears and there's nothing I need to do, because otherwise I'm intimidated. I'm just not strong technically. I'm also not the strongest writer in the world. And that's okay because my wife, because I work out of the house and it's just me and my business. My wife is a wonderful writer. Ask for help when I need to write an article or I need to write a coaching summary. Lori, would you please edit this for me? Sure, I'll be glad to. And it's those types of things that all tie into emotional intelligence. And actually, no, let me go on just for a second because there is more. The ability to apologize when we're wrong, which we've already talked about. The ability to have flexible thinking, meaning that, again, that it's not just my way. I'm not going to dig my heels in. Brad, what are your ideas? Okay, that's great. Wow, David, those are good ideas too. How can we combine these and come up with something fabulous? So to have flexible thinking, additionally to have empathy, is the ability to understand other people and to listen to them carefully, not always saying that, oh, yes, Brad, because you raised a concern, we'll go with what you believe. No, not necessarily. Still, in all, I want to understand you. I want to ask the questions. We may need to go in the same direction that I still want to go. At least we've talked about it, though. That's what I believe a huge part of emotional intelligence is.
Taking a quick pause here. If this episode is resonating, I would love for you to follow the No One is Normal podcast on whatever platform you listen on. Every follow helps this show reach people who might need these stories. Now let's jump back in. Yeah, it took me a couple of years to sometimes think that, well, they didn't pick my idea. I'm dog meat. I'm not any good. I'm not this or that. And sometimes there's just a reason somebody chooses something different, and it's not because it's your idea was garbage. It might not have fit the scope of what needed to be done.
Right. That's right.
Why is listening harder than speaking as a leader?
I'm a big Stephen Covey fan from the 7 habits of highly effective people. Habit 5: seek first to understand, then to be understood. And the one quote that Stephen uses there is that most people have a tendency to listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. And I think that's one of the big things that holds people back is like if you and I are chatting and I'm listening with the intent to reply, that's how I'll counter that thought. Then, yep, that no, that didn't make sense. That's a weakness in his argument right there. That I got that, and I'm not really listening. I'm trying to form my reply or my response without fully listening. And there's an interview I've seen with this guy named Gary Schartner. Gary, former chairman of the board of Amgen Pharmaceuticals, and he talks in the interview about my only job when I'm listening to somebody is to comprehend. That's my only job. And what I love is how he follows up because he says, I want to understand in the moment. He said, there's time later to try to persuade. There's time later to argue. There's time later to do all these other things. In the moment, my only job is to understand what you're trying to get across to me. And I love that.
When you're thinking about what you're going to say, you're not even registering what they're saying to you. You know, it's part of the being an effective listener, right? You got to understand what they're saying. If you're not even listening and then you start talking, how are you going to be able to help bring a solution to something when you're just trying to you already have a solution in your head and you're not listening to the other inputs?
Right. That's right. It's exactly right.
How do you make consistent decisions when emotions are high?
One of the major competencies is called self-regulation. And what I always recommend to people and what I always try to do as best I can, if I'm emotional or something is going on for me, I always try to employ what's called the PRD method. PRD, when I'm emotional, before I say or do anything, I'm going to pause, I'm going to reflect, and then I'm going to decide what to do after that. And that way, in a way, I'm not an expert on brain physiology, Brad. The way our brains are configured, as I understand it, we feel as human beings before we think. We have to, because any stimulus or any information that we receive goes through the emotional center of the brain before it reaches the logic. So we feel before we think. And very often when emotions are high, what do you mean you're not going with that? That's a stupid idea. You can't stop interrupting me. Those kinds of things. And pause, reflect, and then if sometimes it's necessary to respond on the spot by pausing and reflecting. At least you're allowing your brain to get into the logic area, so there'll be some logic attached. What I always like to recommend to people, if and when it's appropriate, is pause, reflect. Can we postpone this? Can we talk about this in an hour so I can calm down, and then ideally you can prepare for what we need to talk about, whatever it might be. And I mean, I can share an example. When my mother-in-law was so sick, she was dying, and we knew that. We had lived with her our entire marriage, and she was home, and we were hoping to be able to keep her at home until she did indeed pass. We had also made the agreement amongst Lori and I and with her that if we don't think we can keep you safe, we're going to need to take you to a nursing home. I had been in Manhattan all day, had a very, very long day, got home. Lori and I are having dinner, and I was really tired. And we're talking about her mom because things were not going well. And I made some sort of comment. I think we should probably consider the nursing home. Lori came at me full bore. I know what you want. You don't care about her. You don't love her. You just want to stick her in the nursing home and be done with this. Okay, pause, reflect. Lori, clearly you're very emotional right now. And how about if we do this? Number one, I've had a very long day and I'm really tired. You're emotional. I'm emotional. There's a lot going on here. Can we table this? I'm going back to the city tomorrow morning. You know I get there early. How about if I call you when I get to the office, we'll talk about it then. Okay. We did. We had a nice conversation the next day, and we decided the best thing to do was to go with the nursing home. And that's neither here nor there. My point, if we had continued to talk that evening, all we would have done was argue. We would have gone absolutely nowhere because I'm emotional. She's emotional. You don't love her. Yes, I do. No, you don't. You don't care. Yes, I do. And we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, that definitely emotional intelligence. When you look at the kind of the realm of it, right? It is a lot of instant reaction usually leads to instant regret. You know, so I kind of like it goes to like even emailing somebody. Yeah, I use the
Yes,
PRD as well when it comes to
very
an
much.
email.
Yes.
I will create a draft and I will pause, especially if you're upset, right? You do the angry
Oh,
Kermit, you're sitting there typing out this letter and you're gonna nuclear waste somebody and just burn everything in its path, and then you come back and be like, ooh, I better not do that.
oops.
Ooh, yeah. So I come back and I look at him like, okay, no, no, that just let's try to be more tactical and respectful and not just trying to throw a grenade on a table, see who's going to jump on it.
Right. That's right.
Kind of staying a little bit on this theme, when does confidence become ego?
I think confidence can become ego when we were kind of talking about this earlier. If I'm not willing to listen to other people, I know what I'm talking about. This is the way I've done it this way for 14 years. I know what I'm doing and just that kind of stuff. I think, one of the biggest things for me is to stay open-minded and just to realize there are other alternate solutions out there. I mean, I have my ideas and there's no doubt about that. And I'll present my ideas. I need to remember that my ideas are not the be all end all. And I think that's a lot of times when confidence can become arrogance.
I think a lot of the human ego, everybody thinks that what they do and say is the most important thing ever, right? And the ego gets in the way of that. And when you kind of take a step back and you look at things, and especially being in leadership, right? I got to bring in team members that are going to be eventually leaders. So I need to make sure that one, I give them direction, I give them freedom, but then if something happens, I got to give them redirection. But I want to make sure that they have the tools they need to succeed, whether it's help with getting resources, whether it's help with getting inputs, whether it's just help with getting them the confidence they need to kind of grow into that role and
Hmm.
responsibility.
Yes, yes, very much so. Very much so.
So going into kind of the leadership, why do you think teams hesitate to tell their leaders the truth sometimes?
For me, I think a big part of it is, the fear of getting their heads handed to them. Is that I'm not bringing him bad news. Are you kidding me? I will get my head torn off. And I think that is one of the biggest reasons people will not deliver bad news. And I'll tell you, I had such an interesting conversation with an old boss many years ago. Barbara Barbara turned out to be the best boss I ever had in my career. She had started with Toshiba. She had been around maybe 2 3 months, something like that, incredibly short period of time. She sat in California. I was in New Jersey. And we had gotten into the habit. I traveled almost every week. So I would call her uh, around 11 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock on the West Coast every Monday morning, just to do a quick check in, say hi, this is what's going on this week, and so forth. And we kind of just settled into that. I called her one Monday and I was like, Barbara, I've got a problem. The class I'm supposed to do in Boston in 2 weeks is falling apart. This is the reason it's falling apart. This is my plan to rectify. It'll still happen, just not as soon as we had hoped. Okay, fine. We're finishing up, and I'll never forget what she said to me. Ron, I'm starting to trust you. Okay, how so? She said, be very clear about something. I don't trust anybody who never brings me bad news. Because if you never bring me bad news, you're hiding something. And once I find out what you're hiding, we're going to have a problem. And I love that. It's like, oh, and I'm sorry, she also added to that. If I ask you how things are going and you always tell me everything's fine, nothing is perfect 24/7. That would she added that. And I love that. And I mean, and again, I think sometimes though, leaders do react that way. It's like, oh, I didn't know about this, or you made a mistake. Oh my goodness. And it's like, man, that's part of leading. We've been talking about it. Giving the feedback, giving course correction, giving the it's okay, whatever it might be. Because I'll tell you right now, if I get my head torn off, what's the incentive to come back? To get it torn off more deeply next time.
Oh, and that's kind of you can tell there's a little bit of changing in the guard and leadership, right? The kind of the old hard-nosed leaders that will do that to you. Training has been done to try to minimize it and make it more collaborative,
Yes,
make it more coaching and mentoring versus I tell you what to do, you do it. If you don't,
yes,
there's the
yes,
door, right?
yes, yes.
That's been a kind of a big change, and a lot of places that are effectively going in the right direction bring that mentality and that
Oh,
culture.
absolutely.
And the ones
Yeah,
that aren't have the same problem. They got the same leaders that sit there and just hammer on people, and then
right.
nobody wants to bring
That's
any
right.
ideas because it's
Yeah.
not that person.
Well, I mean, one of the big things, one of the things I like to talk about too, in any sessions that I do or in my coaching, kind of what I'm hearing is psychological safety. Is people need to feel safe coming to you and hey, this is what's going on. It's an issue. And I need some guidance or this is what I'm going to do to correct it. I just want you to be aware of it so you don't get blindsided by it.
Right. So kind of going into that a little bit more is when you talk about like delegation, what role does delegation play in both trust and control?
Oh,
Don't mean to keep throwing curveballs at you and asking
no,
some
no, no,
good,
no, no,
but I
not a
think these are
curveball.
very good
I
questions to
like this.
ask. And yeah,
It's making me think, which is good. I mean, relative to trust and control, one thing that we used to talk about and recommend, and it's been my direct experience as well, is that I would rather give you more more authority than you're ready for than less. And I'll trust you to do it. And if I see that you're starting to struggle, it's at that point I will jump in. And the trust has to be in place from the perspective of you have competence, you have the knowledge, experience, and skill to do the work, plus you have been producing. So I do trust you. I will delegate to you. And if things start to get off track, then we are going to have a conversation. And I think, going to though, because with the word control, my experience has been and my observation has been quite often leaders want to hold on to things, number one, for a number of different reasons, and not delegate because they love it so much. This is mine. And it's the inflexible thinking, if you will. I've always done it this way. This is mine. I want to keep it this way. Or they just don't trust the people. They just don't have that trust. And one of the proudest moments of my career, I was telling you about the Future Leaders Program a little bit when Joe asked me to put that outline together. He came to David and I one day nicely because this was the language he used. He was like, "Hey, hey, I need to see you two clowns in my office tomorrow at 10 o'clock." I'm like, "Okay, is there anything we should think about, Joe?" No, no, just come to my office at 10 o'clock. Okay. So we go in, sit down, shuts the door, and instantly you could tell. I'm not going to say something was wrong. You could tell something was going on because he looked, again, I'm not sure I want to say off. He looked a little emotional. Anyway, my point, gentlemen, I need to talk to you about something. When I came here to this company to start the management development area, it was just me. I designed, I developed, and I have been delivering the Future Leaders Program all by myself. You've been helping me with it now for the past year, year and a half, and I appreciate it. It's time to redesign it. The program has gotten old, it's gotten tired, and I've gotten authorization to completely redo it. And he hesitated and he was like, David, Ron, the Future Leaders Program of this company is in your hands now. It's yours. I'm going to completely delegate it to you. And we talked about it for a while. And as we were leaving his office, I'll never forget. He was like, "Hey, hey, hey!" We both turned around. He goes, "Guys, make me proud." And we were like, "Yeah, of course we will." I was so proud and so honored that he trusted us with this program and without needing complete control of it. He, of course, he wanted to know what's going on, what's in it, and all these other things. It wasn't like I'm going to be in that room and I'm going to be watching, and you better do critical thinking the way I like it. And if you don't, no. And how wonderful was that?
Yeah, at first you're thinking you're going to get in trouble, right? You're like, oh, this is going to
Right.
be I'm getting my ass chewed. Something's going to happen, and all of a sudden, you can tell the emotion on him was heavy because it was his like his baby, right? And
That's it.
he's like, well, it's tough for me to give it away, but I have complete faith in you two to be able to facilitate it and make it better than what I could do.
Correct.
So that's a very good feeling, and that's where effective feedback needs to happen more from leaders to people, you know.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
What was the hardest feedback you ever received? I can start on mine. Um, so there was a role open for an executive at the company I used to work for. Um, One of the managers there really was, hey, Brad should take on this role. He's done a lot of things for this company. I introduced a bunch of different changes, went from 2D to 3D modeling, um, went to barcoding, did a lot of things for this company. Um, and then all of a sudden there was a meeting. I sat in that meeting with uh, the owner, the VP at the time, the HR and accounting manager, the service manager, and the owner uh, pretty much berated me and said, "You're not ready. You're not ready as a leader." And I'm sitting in front of all these people where this could have been a private conversation, but I was called out, pulled to the carpet just because somebody thought I would have been great in that role as their operations manager. Fast forward, now I'm actually working for a company and I'm developing an entire ecosystem, right? So that moment, that feeling, I will never forget. And it really put into my mind and my perspective that maybe I'm not ready, but God damn it, I'm going to really push to make sure I'm ready for the next opportunity. And when I went to the next opportunity, I was ready.
I I think, Brad, I'm going to go back to the story I shared with you earlier of when I made that mistake with not being prepared. And while I wasn't berated publicly, it was such a horrifying experience for me for a lot of the same reasons. And Tony just saying, "What's the matter with you? Should he didn't say should we have hired you? It wasn't that bad. Still in all, this is a horrible mistake. Oh my goodness, our credibility is at stake now." And I'm feeling about that high and just like how can I ever recover from this, and again it's like I'm thinking to myself, I've got to leave now. I've only been here a couple of months. I'm never going to get another job like this is what I dreamt of. And again, just realizing that, okay, I need to come through this on the other end. There's nothing I can do about the mistake I made. How can I course correct? What can I do about this? And it ended up working out very, very well. And I became, Tony became a mentor to me. And the relationships or the issues that I had with the dealers, the dealership with who the people walked out on me, that solidified after time. And just realizing that, okay, yeah, it's a mistake. What can I do about it? And so much of it has to be, though, from the other side of the table, in that it's like, okay, because if you're going to berate me and continue to do that, I'm not going to stay. There's no reason for me to be here then.
Yeah, after that conversation I had with, it wasn't really a conversation. I just sat and got my ass handed to me, and I got out of that meeting, and at that point, I knew it wasn't going to be me being there long term. I wasn't going to go above where I was at. I was
Right,
never going to be a part of that company because the owner had in his mind that I wasn't going to be successful in a role above what I'm doing.
right.
And that is something that, you know, sometimes leaders need to hear that, but he was the type of person where a lot of people didn't want to go give him that type of feedback. They would give him business decisions. He wanted bad news quickly, so you would go through the bad news, but you wouldn't talk about the kind of, hey, that made me feel like crap, right? That could have been a me and you conversation, and then I could have actually had time to prep and said, here's what I've done for the company. But instead, you took and these couple of people were kind of against me. They didn't want me in that role just because they were, I think one of them wanted that role,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it was it was kind of one of those things where I just said, you know what, this sucks. Lick my wounds,
Yeah,
and I'm going to come back better, and I'm going to come back more aggressive to be better. You know,
right.
what truth do leaders need to hear more often?
I think they need to get the balanced news, meaning they need to hear the things that are going well. They need to make sure that when things are going well, they are recognizing the people who are accomplishing these things, supporting them fully. Additionally, they need to know that when things are not going well, what's going on, and creating the type of environment where people are comfortable coming to them and saying, we've got an issue. We've got an issue here. This isn't going well. And I mean, it's funny because I'm reminded. I have a client in Indianapolis. They're a heavy duty towing company. Rough and tumble group, a lot of fun. I love everybody there. We were doing a session for some of the top leaders, and day one had gone very, very well. Day two was good. The afternoon of day two was very sluggish. It was slow, and just there were a lot of things happening. The one VP and I caucused very, very quickly, and we were like, we got to pivot. We've got to do something here. This isn't working. And I don't even remember, frankly, what we came up with. Whatever it was worked well because the rest of the day did go well. Point being, though, it's not. We can't sit there. Oh, it'll turn around. It'll be okay. No, no, this is not working. We need to do something fast.
Yeah, that's a couple things to kind of add on to that, like giving feedback, right? I believe in always giving the good feedback as well as kind of the, hey, here's areas of opportunities, right? I don't say, hey, dumbass, this is what you're doing wrong, right?
Right.
There's like these couple things I'd like you for you to work on, but here's the things you're doing really strong, right? And I want you to keep doing these things strong, but these are kind of need to be picked up a little bit and need to be uh, kind of put in the forefront to make sure
Hmm.
that one, you're doing what you need to do, and two, it gives you opportunity to get better. And you know, iron sharpens iron. If someone listening wants to connect with you or learn more about your leadership work, where should they start?
Probably the best way to do that, Brad, is through LinkedIn. Just very simply, it's RLB, Training and Development. My name is there on the screen, REICH, and I welcome the chance to chat. Just welcome the chance to have a conversation, and that's what it'll be. I promise anybody, if we can chat about things, it's not going to be a sales pitch. It's not going to be, oh, I can't share information with you, that's proprietary, whatever. It's like, no, let's talk about it. And if we decide to work together, wonderful. And if there's something I can help you with in the moment, I'll be glad to do that.
Well, if there's also a case, would they be able to sign an NDA to have a conversation if they felt like they needed to?
Yeah, I wouldn't even need to. I mean, if that's necessary, sure. For me, it's no big deal. Sometimes I'm too trusting.
Right. Well, Ron, first and foremost, thank you for the great conversation and being a guest on the show. It really means a lot to me, and hopefully, you keep doing what you're doing, and a lot of people come and become effective leaders through you.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate your time. It was fun to talk to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ron.
Okay.
Some growth begins with success. Other growth begins with consequences. What stands out in Ron's story is not the mistake that led to his recovery, but the decades that followed, the work of staying sober, the discipline of continued self-reflection, and the willingness to translate those lessons into how he leads and supports others. Recovery and leadership share something in common. Both require honesty, the ability to admit when we are wrong, and the humility to ask for help when we cannot solve something on our own. If this episode resonated, it may be because everyone carries moments they wish they had handled differently. The real question is not whether those moments happen, it is what we choose to do with them afterward. If you'd like to learn more about Ron's leadership work or connect with him directly, you can find him on LinkedIn. Just a reminder, the stories and conversations in this podcast are for informational and personal reflection only. Nothing shared here should be taken as medical, legal, or professional advice. Always speak with a qualified professional about your own personal situation. Thank you for listening to No One Is Normal. If today's message resonated with you, you can find the book No One Is Normal on Amazon and Kindle, and explore more resources at www.bradhhill.com or www.nooneisnormal.co. Remember, you weren't meant to be normal, you were meant to be you.